Oh dear. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sincerely Agile with Mary. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, this is a podcast where we want to promote the agile mindset or growth mindset, if you like. It's a place where we believe that everyone is highly resourceful and that we have the capacity to grow. Now, today I'm particularly excited because we have the amazing Bob Gallagher joining us today. And I am just going to welcome him to the podcast. Hello, Bob.
Hi, Mary. Thank
How
you
are
for
you?
having me. I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for honoring our invite. It is such a pleasure to have you here today. Now, Bob, we are streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and we would often have a live audience joining us. I can see someone has joined us already. And we're just going to take this wherever we possibly can take it.
Sounds
For
good.
me, I'm particularly excited that you're here with us today because I know the mark that you have made in the agile space. So for me, it's just a huge pleasure to have you on Sincerely Agile with Mary. Now, let me read out your bio so that our audience can get to know you better, and I'm just going to read it out now. Bob Gallen is an agile practitioner, trainer, and coach based in Cary, North Carolina. In this role, he plays, I'll take that again. In this role, he helps guide companies and teams in their pragmatic adoption and organizational shift towards agile methods of working. Bob has been doing that since the late 1990s, so he's deeply experienced. He's the director of agile practice at Zenergy Technologies, a leading business agility transformation company. Bob is also president and head coach at RGCG, a boutique agile coaching firm. Bob regularly speaks at international conferences and professional groups on topics related to agile software development, testing, scaling, and organizational leadership. He's a certified enterprise coach, Scrum Alliance certified agile leadership trainer, and an active member of the Agile and Scrum Alliances. He's published four agile centric books: The Three Pillars of Agile Quality and Testing in 2005, Scrum Product Ownership, third edition in 2019, Agile Reflections in 2012, and Extraordinarily Badass Agile Coaching in 2022. He is also a prolific writer and blogger. Now, that is an impressive bio right there, Bob. What a pleasure to have you on. Now, I'm going to start, Bob, with my classic question, especially to people in this space, and you are a veteran in this space. It will be interesting to know how your agile journey started. And I ask this because you have been doing agile before agile. So tell us more about that.
Sure. Um, my background, my academic background is a software engineer. A software developer. My first job out of school, I won't say what year, was doing assembler programming at Sperry Univac uh, to do mainframes. Not programming on mainframes, but actually building mainframes and the microcode and things like that.
Right.
I have a software background. Started doing development. Along the way, I was fairly good at software development. I wasn't fantastic, but I was good enough that people promoted me. And one day, after maybe 10 years practicing, I was promoted to a management role and then a director role. Along that path, so I think a lot of developers who get promoted to management um, aren't good at it and they don't like it. I was lucky in that I think I liked leadership and management, and I was relatively good at it. And that was the pivot point for me. And then around that time, I've always been an early adopter of technologies as a leader, or approaches or tactics. So, and I was attending these Unix conferences or these technology conferences, and I happened on Ken Schwaber and Sutherland. So Schwaber and Sutherland pitched Scrum at a conference called OOPSLA. I think it was either 1995 or 96.
Right.
And I heard them talk about it, the original case study, and I got really excited. Not about Scrum. I thought it was a weird word, but the tactics they were talking about, the approach they were small teams, iterations, empowered teams really resonated with me as a people leader. That was one of my discoveries along the way. Is I not only was I a leader, but I really was people centric or soft team centric, and so it aligned with that, and that was the start of my journey. So I was bringing agile into companies, into my teams. It was very practical. I was trying to improve how we delivered products. And I was trying to do that in a humane way, in a sane way, because I felt my experience was waterfall was sort of, it's, I'm not one of these people that say waterfall is bad. It has its context,
Yes.
but it's not very humane at times to the developers, to the teams. And agile was much more humane. It resonated with me, and that was the start of my journey, probably in the late 90s.
Very people centered, obviously, people centric, obviously. Thank you very much. We have a few people here. We've got Grace here. We've got Ronke. We've got Olawale here. Olayemi here. Nice to have you all here. Thank you for joining us. My next question, again, another classic question, and you may have touched on this. What was your aha moment? I think you touched on it, but let me just ask the question again. What was your aha moment
I mean,
on
I
this
think
journey?
I've had the aha moment early on, but I've also had a reoccurring reminder of the aha moment, which is, and I've written about this a little bit. I think a lot of leaders, they think it's about them, or you think it's about the organization. And my aha was, it's all about the team. And one of the reasons I rail against SAFe sometimes nowadays, I joke, I'm not the best SAFe proponent, and I don't know if SAFe picking on that framework puts the teams first. I think they put management first or value streams first. But I really felt early on, I not just felt, I discovered early on that if you lead the teams, if you do your job and set the stage for the teams and get out of their way, magic happens. Teaming creates magical things, magical joy on the part of the team, magical value on the part of delivery. The leader is still providing guidance, but maybe
Yeah.
creating a container for that, innovation and that excellence of delivery and that connection to customer. And I had that aha very early on, and it connects to results. That's another thing a lot of agilists don't get. It's not just having this wonderful agile experience, but we have to deliver the goods, if that makes sense.
It has.
So it's this connection to having, sort of a wonderful container, but we get it done. We get stuff done and we deliver it. And I've seen that aha recurse over time, and it energizes me. It
Yeah.
in fact, when I'm journaling or when I'm reflecting, I try to remember that it's not about me, it's not about Scrum, it's not about tactics, it's not about Jira. All of those things are wonderful. It's about putting the team, you know, creating a good team, hiring a good team, putting them in a position to win, and then getting out of their way.
I like that. Having that humanistic approach to things, but of course, having the goal of delivering value ultimately, because obviously organizations exist to make money. They are not a charity organization, but we need to have that human centered approach to the delivery of value.
Yep.
I like that. Thank you very much. Now, this is one area that I believe also perhaps led to so many things in your book. The field of agile coaching is a complex one and an evolving profession without a doubt. Tell us more about that in your own perspective.
I I I mean, I think it's evolving. It's complex, but I I actually think the evolution of agile coaching. So in the 90s, in my journey, there were no coaches at the time. So I was coaching teams, but I didn't have that word or
Yeah,
that term or that role in mind. Of course, to me it was just mentoring. To me it was just mentoring teams and supporting teams and then providing leadership dynamics. Over time, then um, the agile coaches surfaced, and in the beginning they were more team centric coaches, And to be honest, they were more technology centric coaches. They were coaches that would sit by developers and show them pair programming or show them TDD, test driven
Mm-hmm.
development, and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So they weren't big C coaches. They weren't coming in as a coach, they were coming in as a technologist. And somewhere along the line, maybe 10, 15 years ago, then you started seeing enterprise coaches and
Yeah.
foundational coaches and business coaches, and coaching became a thing. Uh, and along the way, professional coaching, this notion of professional coaching, ICF coaching, came in and integrated with the agile coaching, in the agile coaching competency framework that Lisa and Michael put together. And I think at some point, I don't know if it got muddied. What coaching is got muddied. It lost clarity. In the beginning, I think there was more clarity. It didn't have terminology, but there was more clarity. There was more of a connection to the team. And then over time, there was this multifaceted, layered coaches that were going to come in, and it lacked clarity. I think one of the fundamental challenges is this notion of agile coaching versus professional coaching, if that
Yes.
makes sense, right? If anyone does any study, if you look at agile coaching, there are different definitions. I like the agile coaching growth wheel for it. Professional coaching is pretty narrowly defined. Now, it's a broad discipline, but it's relatively clear in its focus. And those two together are not the same thing. But then a lot of times people sort of aggregate them together, and that got confusing.
Yes, that got confusing. And one of the things you tried to do with your book was to bring clarity to that, I guess, because you did talk. I mean, you talk a lot about how do we show our value. Do we think we can come into organizations and just focus on professional coaching and get the job done? So that takes me to the next question. What was the why of the Extraordinarily Badass Agile Coaching book? I mean, you have talked about the need for clarity. Tell us more about this.
So I wrote a product owner. So for me to write a book, for
Hmm.
my personal book writing journey, is that I need to see a problem. So I don't just write a book to write a book,
Yeah.
right? I have to see something that I don't agree with, and it can't
Hmm.
be something small. It has to be something, relatively broad and deep.
Right.
So when in 2009, when I wrote my first product, the edition of the product owner book, there was a lack of guidance around product ownership at that time. There
You're
really
always
was.
trying to solve a problem.
So for me, not that I'm trying to solve world hunger, but it was that's the world needs product ownership guidance, and that's what drove that. So that's fast forward to the eBack book. The driving force there was there's another problem, and the things in my mind were a lack of clarity as to what agile coaching is and is not. There was also a driving observation I have that there's a lot of mediocrity. There's a lot of people who say they're an agile coach and are selling themselves as agile coaches, but I don't think they know what that is. Uh, and they're not developing the view. It's like if I was doing wood craftsmanship, if you were looking for a wood stairway to be replaced in your house, and I said I am a woodworking craftsman, and I came in and I only had a 2-day class, the results, your stairway would not be a beautiful, elegant
Most
stairway,
likely not.
and it probably wouldn't hold anyone as they walked up. It would be a quality hazard. So
Yes.
there's a lot of people that are doing that, and I didn't want to be judged. It's not in my nature to judge. But I wanted what I want to be. I wanted the book to be a guideline or maybe a lighthouse to say this is what's possible. This is what good might look like, to inspire people to go on that journey, because I think the world needs more, sort of highly skilled agile coaches, or using that term, badass agile coaches. If you don't like it, I apologize. That term, everyone, I apologize. But I think the world needs that, and that's what inspired me to write the book.
Absolutely. And that's why we're having this conversation, because I tell you, when I bought the book, I mean, I have the e-copy because I want to be sure that I have access to it wherever I am. For me, it's one of those books where you never finish reading it. You will always go back to it because of the
Oh,
way it is written. Okay, it is written to be your growth companion. That is how I say it. And that is why, for me, this conversation is really important, to reach out to more people, to get more people to buy the book. Because, like you said, it's about sanitizing the space, it's about professionalizing the
Yeah.
space. And that is what this conversation is about. That is what we're hoping, would happen here today, that more people will see the benefit of getting the book. This is not just about marketing, this is about getting a book that will be your growth companion. And for me, it has been great, and I hope more people will get their hands on it. So, thank you for writing such a great book. Thank you for trying to sanitize, professionalize, solve a problem, as it were. And I think that is what coaches should be doing. That is what professionals should be doing. That is what any change agent should be doing. We see a problem, we ask ourselves, what can we do about it? So that's just awesome.
Thank you, Mary.
um, there have been a few comments from our audience. Let me just share. Repeating some stuff there. Early adopters. Someone says, glad to be here. That's a LinkedIn user. I can't see your name, unfortunately. Toby Elliott, big fan of Uncle Bob. Thanks for facilitating, Mary. Putting the team first and setting the stage, echoing what you said there. Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. Right. What's my next question? Okay. Now you have, I mean, we just heard Bob Elliott's, Toby Elliott saying, he's a great fan of yours, and you are a lot of people's fan. You are my fan as well. So you have a great reputation within the community of reaching out and pulling up. What are the drivers here for you?
I think the core driver for me is, and I haven't had this my entire career, but somewhere along the line, I started caring. Maybe it's probably related to age, but I started caring about legacy. And
Legacy.
I started thinking about, it's important to consider. I started to be aware of my privilege in my space as a subject matter expert, as an agilist, as a sort of you know, a thought leader in this space. And it comes with responsibilities, I think. And this is my internal discovery. No one, I'm not trying to project it on anyone else, but my internal discovery was, gosh, I'm thankful for my role. And I
Hmm.
started to realize, like, my words have value, or that, not value, impact to people,
Impact.
right? They have impact. So I have privilege, I have a responsibility, and I started thinking about my legacy. So I started thinking about doing things or taking action. So instead of just thinking about it, what can I do
Hmm.
to take action, to lift, to use your terms, to lift people up? What, and I have, it's not everyone. I can't lift everyone,
No, you
but
can.
but there's certain, I can try, but there's certain groups that I thought about. So women in agile is something that touches my heart. And so I really try to, for example, I've invited women to do conference presentations with me, to co-present, and I think of it as giving them a stage to start, and then they go off on their own. One of my favorite examples of this is Mary Thorne. Mary and I have been, sort of friends and colleagues for over a decade. And I actually hired her at a job, and in the interview, she made the mistake of saying, "I'm looking for a mentor and I'm looking to grow." And I'm like, "Well, be careful what you ask for, Mary. You
You
may
just
just
might
get that.
get it.
You may get that." And so I am a mentor to Mary and an opportunity. What's interesting is Mary is now reaching out and pulling people up. She's mentoring women in technology in her company at S&P. She's doing just wonderful stuff in the LGBTQ community, and I'm just proud of what she's doing. Uh, People of color are something that I try. Anu Gopal is someone
Yeah.
that I had in the class in 2007. I met Anu in 2017. She attended a class I was giving, and we stayed in touch. And she's doing some wonderful things in Nigeria, and it just warms my
Absolutely.
heart. And it's just so things like that.
Hmm.
Um, it's just, I don't want to just leave behind. Bob was an agile coach. I want to leave behind. I want to touch people's lives, and I know that may sound schmaltzy or but I want to try to touch people's lives as much as I can within my space.
That's it.
Uh, so
That's
that's
it.
what. So that's what drives me. Uh, and action, Mary. My daughter is a social worker. She's pivoted into Scrum Mastery, but she spent 15 years or more doing social work. And it's she's actually called me out a few times. I was complaining once in a class. I said, I don't have enough diversity in this class. And I was whining about it. And she said, well, what did you do, Dad? And I said, I sent emails out. And she said, what else did you do, Dad? And I said, I sent more emails out.
Well,
I said, what else did you do? And I'm like, well, that's all I did. And she said, that's not good enough. If you want diversity, you may have to stretch. You may have to reach out. You may have to be more empathetic. You may have to do things that are uncomfortable for you. And she was absolutely right. So my point is, move from complaining or whining or talking about it and I've shifted into, let's take some action
absolutely.
within what I can do. And I want to try to act as much as I can.
Fantastic. I mean, you said something about legacy. I'm interpreting that as the burden of posterity. You said that could be age related, whichever way you look at it, you're still trying to leave a legacy. And I think that is something we should all try and practice, regardless of our age, whether we're 20 or 70. We should try and impact lives. And that is what we're trying to do right here, right now. And talking about being a mentor, the one thing I would also say you have done, and everyone or anyone that picks up your book will have you mentoring them. That is how that book is written. I can't emphasize on that enough. For me, I've always believed that when we invest in well written books, what we're really doing is asking of those authors to be our mentor in our growth journey. Essentially, that is what it is for me. Um, one more comment here. Yes, he cares about legacy. Absolutely, he does care about legacy. You talked about empowering women. That is also another area that I know you have done a lot of work in. You even with Anu Gopal, with what she's doing in Africa. So I just want to use this opportunity to say thank you for caring.
Oh,
Thank you for actually going out there and doing the best that you can. We can't change the world. That is for real, but we can impact our sphere of influence. And for me, I think every agilist should take it upon themselves to say, who am I mentoring?
yes.
Okay, what am I doing in my space? Because for me, I did ask you, what was your aha moment? And I always ask, every agile, professional that comes on this platform, what was your aha moment? Because for me, I started working as a consultant before I came into the agile space. And I was always so passionate about emotional intelligence and social intelligence. So coming into the agile space, I'm like, why haven't I been here all along? Because this just fits like a glove for what I want to do, for
Yep.
how I want to be in the world in terms of, collaboration and helping people and lifting people up as well. So for me, I also see it as a huge privilege, and I'm doing the little that I can do as well. More comments, and we have people like yourself to look up to. We have Grace here watching from Abuja, Nigeria. Thank you very much. Thanks for supporting Africa Agility Agile with Ukraine. Absolutely, he's been doing a whole lot. Absolutely, would like to be mentored by you, Coach. We can't see your name, unfortunately. Diversity, absolutely, Olubusola. Thank you for joining us. Now, what's my next question for you? Um, what does the operating system of a badass agile coach looks like? After all, you're the one who wrote the Extraordinarily Badass Agile Coaching book. So, what does good look like? I mean, you did say you can't call yourself an agile coach just because you have attended a 2-day course. There's more to it. So,
Right.
what's the operating system of a badass agile coach? What does good look like?
So, Mary, when I saw this question, you passed the questions to me in advance, this made me think about it. And I actually, if you look in the book,
Yeah,
and I'm not going to test you, there's a figure in there that has an operating system,
I know.
and now 2 years later, it's almost 2 years. It's coming up on 2 years later. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know if I like that idea. Now, what it was my software engineer hat.
Yeah.
So my software engineering architecture hat was
Yeah.
creating this multi-layered. To answer the question today,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying is don't look in the book, everyone. I mean, that's fine. That operating
Yeah.
system is fine. I
Yeah.
think the operating system that I'd like to refer to today
Yeah.
is in the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. And if anyone looks at the growth wheel, there's something in the middle called self mastery.
Yeah.
And self mastery. So the OS today is the inside of the coach. And it has things like, so, and you mentioned emotional intelligence, social awareness,
Mm-hmm.
um, self awareness,
Mm-hmm.
right? Are you walking your talk?
Yeah.
Coaching presence. How do you show up? The meta skills that you use in your coaching. I wrap a lot of that stuff into the self mastery hub of the wheel, and that to me is the operating system. That sets the stage. How solid? Think of that as the foundation. In my mind,
Mm-hmm.
self mastery is the foundation for you as a coach, as an agile
Yeah.
coach. That's your foundation. A lot of people do not have strong foundations. They might be, oh, I'm going to go to a facilitation class. Great. That's fantastic. Or I'm going to go to an ACC coaching class. That's great. Fantastic. But are you also developing your foundation for those stances, which is self mastery? Are you walking your talk? Uh, are your behaviors lining up? Are you, for example, what one of the Scrum values is courage?
Yeah.
Are you, as a coach, showing up with courage? Are you walking in courage? Are you showing people what courageousness looks like each and every day in situations? And that's part of that self mastery. So to me, that's probably the new operating system. It's that inside out view. Do you have a good foundation? Just like, am I going to say this? Just like Microsoft Windows is
Yeah.
the foundation for a PC. I think self mastery is really that.
Absolutely. And it's at the core of the wheel, self mastery. I mean, you've talked about courage, you've talked about respect. So it's about introspecting to say, who are we? Or who are we becoming in this journey, right?
Absolutely. I mean, even things like self care are to me are self mastery, right? You're coaching other people. Are you
Hmm.
taking so? Are
Are
you
you taking
taking
care of
care
yourself?
of yourself? Are you investing in yourself? Are you being kind to yourself,
Hmm.
etc.? So I lump a lot of things into self mastery,
Hmm.
and that's something you're gonna. I hope part of being a badass coach is not saying, "Oh, I'm done with self mastery. I took a 2-day Bob Gallagher class, and my hub is good enough." No, your hub is never good enough. You can always be working on that self mastery bit.
You're never quite there. Learning is a lifelong activity anyway, and I really like how you emphasize on the self, introspecting, taking care of self. I mean, you can't give from from an empty cup, as it were. How are you showing up, right?
Correct.
Our signature presence, if you like. What's your signature presence? What are you bringing into the client's environment? Because I mean, as we know, you don't come with a solution mindset. You come trying to partner with your clients
Right.
to help them solve the problem. Obviously, the bulk of, they have to find the solutions to their problem. But how do you come in to show empathy? How do you come in to walk a mile in their shoes? And
Yep.
you can't do that if you don't have that self mastery, if you don't have that signature presence, which we all need if we want to be
Absolutely.
badass agile coaches, right? Respect for people, that is critical.
I agree.
Self care, that is so important. And I'm happy you mentioned self care. Self care is also the reason this podcast has moved from Sunday to Wednesday, because I then realized that, oh my God, I'm stretched out, right?
Yep.
Because in as much as it's just a 1 hour podcast, you'll be surprised how it occupies your mind for the whole of that day, right? And then I got to a point where I said to myself, I think this is getting too much. I need to do some readjustment. And that was coming from a point of me looking out for myself in as much as I want to give and I want to do this and do that. So that is important. Again, investing, I want to emphasize on that. Investing in ourselves. And when we talk about investment, we could be talking dollars, we could also be talking time. The agile space, yes, I do agree that there are a lot of content out there. But if we really want to go far, we really need to find the budget. We really need to put our money where our mouth is and invest in us in ourselves so that we can be better equipped to serve. So for me, I just wanted to reiterate about investment of time to learn, investment of money to develop ourselves. Let's see, do we have some questions? If you have any questions for Bob, please drop it in here. Um, to impact our sphere of influence positively, we have to lead by example and integrity. Absolutely. We can't give what we don't have. Operating system is the inside of the coach. Absolutely. Self mastery is the foundation for you as a coach. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that again, Olayemi. Now, what else do I have here for you? Um, well, you sort of touched on it. The Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. Why should Agile coaches become familiar with it?
I think of it so self mastery is the
Yeah,
hub, and
yeah.
that's an important part. But going back to mediocrity in coaching, or another aspect is confusing professional coaching with agile coaching. I think agile coaching is a superset that includes professional coaching
Hmm.
as a competency. With all due respect, it's not they're not one is better than the other, but one is inclusive. The agile coaching competency framework, the predecessor to the wheel,
To that.
did the same thing. So what those models, what are they trying to convey? They're trying to convey that the profession of, the craft of, right? The craft of agile coaching is nuanced. It's not just one thing, but it's a family of things. It's facilitation, it's training, it's
Hmm.
leading, it's mentoring. It's part of it is having what I think of as domain chops or agile chops, and it's being dexterous and being or nimble and being able to sort of traverse the competencies. So when someone says what ask me what does an agile coach do, I usually reference the wheel in a lightweight way, in a very
Yeah,
light-handed way. I like the shape of it because to me it's that part of the mindset of an agile coach, the self mastery, is to become better rounded or well rounded,
well rounded.
and not perfectly rounded. It's okay to be stronger in some areas and weaker
Sure.
in other areas because of your job or your role. But it inspires you, and it gives you clarity around where am I, and how can I grow, and
Where are
how
the
can I
gaps?
become. What are the gaps, and how do I become more well-rounded? That's why I like the model. I like the shape of it. I like the metaphor. Uh, and and it gives us a baseline as a coach to analyze where am I,
Hmm.
and then to decide in my agile coaching journey, my learning journey, which you were talking about, right? It's we have a responsibility, I think, to be learners. Part of that is walking our talk. And then where are we going to learn? Where do we need to extend ourselves? Continuous improvement ourselves.
Absolutely. Continuous improvement. Thank you very much. Any questions for Bob? I don't see any questions. Now, let's talk about journaling. Oh, I lost Bob. Hopefully, he'll join us back. We've just lost Bob. That's very unusual. Something must have gone wrong at his end. Something must have gone wrong at his end. Okay, I was going to ask him about journaling. Okay, he's back.
I'm sorry. I don't know
That's
what
all right.
I disappeared off the
You
planet.
disappeared. You disappeared totally, but it's good to have you back. So I was going to
Okay.
ask you about journaling, and this is quite important, and I want us to talk about it because when I started my IC Agile expert coaching journey 2 years ago, I believe it was now, one of the halfway through that, one of the things I realized was that my journaling could have been better. I'm also going through my CEC and I can see how I have left a lot of gaps in terms of journaling. So I'm hoping that people who are listening today will do a better job of journaling than I did, so that they can have a better experience with their, training going forward and, coaching going forward. So tell us more, because you also reference journaling in your book. Tell us more why this is important.
I mean, it's important. I can't tell anyone. So I think in my experience in the world, journaling resonates with some people.
Yeah.
It's like public speaking.
Yeah.
Either some people want to do it or a lot of people don't want to do it. So
Hmm.
there's no middle ground for journaling.
Yeah.
Uh, for me, I happened on it maybe 30 years ago. I'm an early riser and I was a leader in a company and I would come in early. And what I realized is I was very tactical every day. There were tactical decisions to be made, plans to, Gantt charts to be executed, uh, releases to be made. And I found that I wasn't reflecting enough and I wasn't strategic enough. I wasn't forward looking enough as a leader, and it was becoming a problem. And part of the challenge for me was there's no time for that. And so I started journaling early in the morning, and I made it a habit. I found a good time for it, and it was a habit. And I wasn't journaling task lists or logs. I was journaling things that I normally wouldn't focus on. For example, team accomplishments. I realized in my journaling that I wasn't appreciating teams enough. I wasn't giving them positive feedback. And I was almost missing the positive events because I was rushing forward so much. I wasn't looking back and celebrating the accomplishments. So journaling was a place for me for accomplishment. The other thing was strategy. Where do we want to be in a year or two? So forecasting strategy, wishful thinking. So my own self care is a part of my journaling. What if thinking, innovation thinking, experiments. I started writing down experiments for later. I wonder if we could do this. Uh, and I've continued to do that through to today. And I just wrote a blog post maybe a week or so ago, and I called it Reflection Artistry. And journaling is the physical capture of me being a reflection artist. The way I'm wired, I like to reflect on everything. And I want to reflect back to reflect forward.
Yeah.
And to me, that's about retrospective nature or the reflection. What can we learn from that? What can we try next? And journaling's been a fundamental sort of aspect of if you look at my journey and say I've done anything good, then one of the underlying activities for me is journaling. It inspires my presentations I'm going to do. It inspired my books. It's inspired my giving back that we talked about, Mary. I might reflect in there and say, you know what, I need to do more.
Hmm.
In you, what can I do more, etc. So I can't. I think it's a fundamental skill to develop. It's like public
Yes.
speaking. I think
Yes.
public speaking makes you a better whatever you are.
Hmm.
If you can coerce yourself to try some public speaking, it has side effects that are wonderful. And I look at journaling the same way.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said earlier on, I began to see that I could have done it better. And the fact that, you talked about reflective practice essentially. So at the end of every day, maybe you've been with a client, you want to really reflect so that you can do better. What has gone well that day? What could I have done better? What experiment does whatever happened? What does that trigger? In a sense, that could be one of the benefits of your reflective practice. So that is so important. So I really hope that people will pick on that, because when you go for your expert agile coaching like CEC and all of that, they are looking for scars as well, right?
Correct.
They're not looking for success stories. Oh, this went well and that went well. They are looking for your scars. And you will find that if you have been journaling properly or often, you would find it easier to articulate that, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for your growth. When this happened, what did you do? Why did you do that, and things like that. And that for me has been such a beautiful experience. And that is why I just thought I would emphasize on that. Now, another thing that I would like us to talk about are meta skills. You have touched on it, and you emphasized on that in your book as well. Um, Meta skills for me became a thing when I started my OSC journey. I was doing it, but I didn't have a name for it, and I didn't do it as much. But having read your book, having gone through the OSC training, which I'm still undergoing, by the way, it has become a real thing for me. Um, I'm going into this conversation, I'm going into this interaction. What meta skills do I want to bring with me?
Yep.
And it's amazing how that just changes how you show up. So tell us more about meta skills. I mean, within the OSC uh, um, uh, um, domain, we have quite a few that has been shared, like deep democracy, collaboration, commitment, and all of that. And you can have your own meta skills. You don't have to stick to the ones that's been shared by the
Right.
OSC organization. So tell us more about meta skills, Bob.
I mean, for me, the ORSC gave me a terminology
Yeah.
for it, and but the critical thing for me is meta skills sort of smacked me in the head and said, Bob, part of your coaching, part of your coaching results is how you show up. The universe is going to mirror back to you. Your clients are going to mirror back to you
Hmm.
how you're mentally showing up. Not how you're physically showing up, but how you are mentally showing up. Right. So meta skills is I'm putting on the meta skill of something in my mind. Now
Hmm.
I can have positive meta skills, or to me, I can have negative meta skills. It's just how I
Hmm.
show. A negative meta skill would be if I'm coaching a leader, I my meta skill could be pointy-headed Dilbert manager, and that's how I'm thinking of them. Or I'm thinking of they'll never get agile. They couldn't spell agile to save their life. I'm smiling, I'm polite, I'm respectful, and I'm coaching them. But the point is, what I'm thinking is going to potentially radiate to them, and they are going to return to me that same pointy-headed coach who's just talking. Now, what's a positive metaskill? I can put on curiosity. I can put on respect.
Yeah.
I can put on empathy, seeking to understand their perspective. And think about that. And I'm just putting it on the same way up here, but it colors my presence. It colors my body language. It colors how I'm showing up to them. And what I've learned, Mary, is that then the universe reflects that back. Client, my daughter and I've talked about my daughter and I doing some teaching, and she and I, before we do leadership classes, and we meet before the class each day and decide on our meta skills and how we're going to show up. Very often I'll select playfulness because I like to be playful. And what I've noticed is the class will reflect playfulness back. Rhiannon, very often, she's a social worker, so she'll be looking for like deep democracy. She
Hmm.
might put on deep democracy or all voices or diversity, which resonates with her. And and it's not something you do, it's something you are.
You
You're
are.
present with it. You are it. And where I first noticed it, the impact is not in coaching, but with my classes. When I first started playing with it during ORISC, I was like, oh wow, this is incredible. Because people were falling asleep in my classes. And I'm like, well, we can't have that. So how can I keep them? I'm kidding. How can I keep them engaged?
Yeah.
And the meta skills have this wonderful effect. And the aha for me as a coach is, you know how we always talk about it? It's the client, at least me. I would be very judgmental of the clients. Oh, it's not me, it's them. They are resisting. They are this. And what I realized is I can't control them, but I can control my meta skills,
That's it.
which can like help the outcome so much, so tremendously. It's one of the most powerful things that emerged from my ORS training, and I continue to use it in my coaching and my training with clients when I'm doing a pre-sale.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm using it continuously.
It is very, very powerful. And for me, it was a very, very strong takeaway from my Oscar training. Because obviously, when we go into any system, if you like, there is always that interactional force field, which, if you're not conscious, you can get pulled into it.
Absolutely.
And when you get pulled into that, you might just be useless to your client, you see. And this is where I find the meta skills as a very, very useful um, way or skill, if you like, sorry, mindset to put on, if you like, before your interactions. Very, 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 very important that we take that on board. So for those of you who are listening for the hearing this for the first time, meta skills is how we want to be when we go into a conversation, when we go into a meeting, when we go into a training. How do we want to show up? Do we want to show up playful, like Bob said? Do we want to show up making sure that we, make room for all the voices, deep democracy? Do we want to show up as partners? You need to think about it. You just don't walk in. If you walk in just not thinking about it, you just might get it wrong. So I thought I'll bring that up, and thank you for the way you've shared that. Um, is this similar to stances of an agile coach? Bob, there's a question there for you, talking about
I
meta skills.
No, I don't think. I mean, I think
It's
you have
different.
meta skills. You decide your meta skills are sort of in self mastery to me. So it's the baseline for your stances for dancing with the client. I think in terms, I would say in
Your
terms
come
of
from place. Thank you very much, Ronke. Your come from place. Now, this is
it's a,
someone who has definitely done the Ask training. Your come
absolutely.
from place. Absolutely.
Now, the one question I would ask is here's a question for you. You don't just pull the meta skills are not for you. They're not for me.
No,
It's how does my client, how
client.
could I best
Serve.
how do I need to show up to create to serve my client, to be my best self for my client?
That's
And
it.
so I don't just pull playfulness out. Like playfulness could be very inappropriate in different situations. So
Hmm.
it's not my favorite place. It's what does the how does the client need me to show up in order for an effective coaching conversation? And
Absolutely.
that's that question you should ask every time. But it's not the same thing to me as competencies, no,
No, it's
or
not.
stances.
It's not. And like you said, it is very context, specific. It's not the same meta skills that you use for one that you use for the other. So
Yep.
for every interaction you're about to have, you want to definitely think about that ahead of time to say, how do I need to show up to better serve this client? How do I need to show up? So that is important. Like you said, it's not for us. It's so that we show up to serve the client. Otherwise, we can totally get sucked in and not be the best that we can possibly be. So that is useful. What else do I have here for you? We're coming to the end of the show. I haven't got a lot of questions here from our audience. Just one second. I'm trying to get back to my banners. Now, the book. Please get the book. Please get the book from Amazon.com or Amazon.co.uk. Trust me, if you are an agile coach and you haven't got this book on your shelf, something is seriously missing on your bookshelf. Take that from me.
Thank,
Something
thank
is
you so much, Mary.
seriously missing on your bookshelf if you are an agile coach and you don't have the book. And the book is Extraordinarily Badass Agile Coaching. You will not regret that investment. It's one you need to make. One more comment or question there. I'm trying to pull up. Okay, he's saying thank you for that. Now, last words for our audience today. We obviously have agile coaches watching. What would you say for to continue and to collectively keep flying the agility flag? What do we all need to keep doing to
Well,
keep this flag flying?
I think, I mean, the Scrum Alliance at one point talked about improving the world of work, I think, in their tagline, in some variation of that. And as this, and their reason for being or their purpose was improving the world of work. And if that's the case, I think one of the things when I talked about mediocre agile coaching, the reason I want to raise the bar and focus on professionalism is I think it matters.
It does.
So right now in the world, there's a lot of debate as to what is the value proposition of agile coaches. Do we need them or not? Not because I'm an agile coach, but because I'm an agilist
Hmm.
with a lot of years of experience. I think you need agile coaches, but we need them to be professional. We need them to be craftspeople. We need them to walk their talk. They need to be well rounded. Leaders, middle management needs to be coached. So my final words is the world needs more agile coaches. I mean, the world has plenty of agile coaches right now
Hmm.
in name.
Hmm. Hmm.
The world needs a lot more skilled, not perfectly skilled, but earnestly skilled and improving agile coaches in order for us to achieve the vision of agile. I think we're at a crossroads of some sort. And my hope is that folks continue that this discussion
Hmm.
inspires people to become learned coaches, to continue down this path, not just in professional coaching, not just but your teaching skills, your mentoring skills, your ability to consult or advise. And we have that well-roundedness in our future. You're never done. I've been doing agile coaching, whether I knew it or not, for 25 or more years.
Hmm.
I could easily see, for doing 20 more years and not becoming done with my learning. And that's what I like about it. It's a rich, broad, deep profession, but we need to treat it that way. So
Absolutely.
hopefully that's not just for us. That's for clients in the agile community. They need us to step up. So hopefully we start stepping up.
Yes, and you've just hit a few nails on the head there. You've talked about how learning is a lifelong activity. We're never quite there. And how do we show our value to our clients? I mean, there were some layoffs, I think, last year and the year before of a lot of agile coaches and scrum masters. And the conversation is that what's the value that they bring to the table? So I like what you said, how we need to take the bar up, we need to raise the bar, and we need to keep professionalizing this space. It's not just about 2 days scrum master training or 3 days agile coaching course. It's about continuing to grow. It's about who we become as agile coaches. It's about continuously investing in ourselves so that we can really, really professionalize this space and add value for our clients. You've said it so well, Bob. Thank you so much. And who better, you know, for that to come from than yourself, who's really rooting for professionalism in this space. I think we have some comments here. Ronke says, soaking in the knowledge being shared. Thank you very much. That's why we show up every week. Advice, words of wisdom for Scrum Masters targeting the Agile coaching roles. That's a question for you, please. Any advice
So
or words of wisdom for Scrum Masters targeting the Agile coaching roles?
so don't target them. Uh, you are an agile coach. You may not have the title or the business card. I don't care. For my entire professional agile career, when I look at a scrum master, every scrum master I've ever met, I look at them as a coach as well. Now, they may be a coach, they may be an infant coach, they may be a coach in
Baby
progress,
coach.
a baby coach, but you're a coach. That aligns with the Scrum Guide. That aligns with most coaches' thinking, and so that mindset. So don't think of it as a higher. Yes, your company may consider it a hierarchy.
Hmm.
I would consider it as you should be refining your Scrum Master coaching skills.
Yes.
Every Scrum Master should look at the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel, take an assessment, look at where your strengths are, start planning your development of coaching skills as a
Mm.
Scrum Master. So that's my words of wisdom: is it's not an incremental bump. Uh, don't look for someone to give you permission to be a coach. Just start working on those skills if you can.
Absolutely. I think there's another one here. I'm just about to post the growth wheel. Sharing the growth wheel now. That's the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. Go to that site and learn more about that. More comments. Ronke says, definitely getting the book. Yes, everyone here today, if you're a Scrum Master,
Thank
you
you,
don't have the book,
Ronke.
or an Agile Coach, you need to get it. This is not just marketing, this is for your growth. Trust me. It's a book you need on your shelf. It's a reference book that you would always want to, reference essentially. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Ronke, for being here. Fantastic evening chat. Thank you, Uncle Bob. Thanks for facilitating again, Mary. Thank you very much. And I think this is where we're going to call it a day. Now, Bob is on LinkedIn, definitely. If you're not already connected with him, please connect with him. There's also the, I think the rraglan.com, rgallan.com. And then we also have the, no, that's not what I want to share. We also have the Agile Coaching Group.
Agile Moves.
Agile
So
Moves.
the
That's the one I'm looking for. That's the one.
Agile,
Yeah.
so
Agile
Agile
Moves.
hyphen move. Agile
That's it.
hyphen moves is a good place to find me.
That's it, Agile Moves. And you will find a lot of write ups on LinkedIn from Bob. You will find a lot of blog posts from him. Trust me, I have learned a lot. And in his book, what is so great about the book is the scenarios they paint. Okay, so they share a lot of scenarios that you can learn from, you can reflect on, and you can really, learn regarding what to do if you find yourselves in those similar scenarios, obviously. And don't forget the meta skills, don't forget the growth wheel. It's all about the self mastery. It's all about our growth. It's all about introspecting. It's all about developing so that we can better show up and serve our clients. Bob, I can't thank you enough. I cannot thank you enough for making the time out of your busy schedule to have a conversation with us on Sincerely Agile with Mary. So thank you so much. And to our audience, always showing up, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's
Mary,
been such
thank
a
you. It's
pleasure.
an honor and a privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye bye, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.